Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Western Courier Decision 2016 podcast. I'm Nicholas Stewart, the editor-in-chief of the Western Courier.
And I am Erika Ward, the news editor.
So we've been covering a lot of the different various things happening in the 2016 season so far. A bunch of different rallies, and then obviously most recently the biggest events for Democrats and Republicans in the state of Iowa. Most recently we had the Des Moines, or I should say the Republican Party of Iowa, their Growth and Opportunity Day, the GOP.
I'm impressed with that person who came up with it.
Names are important. It's always a very important thing. So just kind of before we start kind of delving into it, impressions of that event.
Well, it took place at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. So, it was very Midwestern. I kind of expected that going into it, I guess.
Yeah, because which we talked about in the last podcast, it was the Jefferson-Jackson dinner, I guess was kind of the rough comparison for this event. Totally different, held in a ballroom. And again, we'll kind of go more in detail than this, but I think it was an interesting experience. I'm glad we went.
Definitely.
And it definitely helped having now photos of all 10 candidates on file in case we need them for whatever reason. And the top two candidates were not there. So Trump and Carson, leading not only in the state of Iowa, but leading nationally, weren't at this event, which is kind of strange.
But they did have stalls set up, so.
They each
They
had,
were there in spirit.
I get the cool thing with the GOP was in fact that each candidate basically had, unlike the Jefferson-Jackson dinner with basically just kind of speeches, it's more like a very fairground kind of thing. It's kind of like more open to the public, kind of learning more about the candidates.
Really family-oriented.
That was a big thing, too. There was, swag everywhere they can kind of get, including free babies from Planned Parenthood.
Yep, that was a thing.
So that was a thing that was available. Very cool, though. It was very fun to be at. We'll be, first we'll go through, of course, the disclaimer. Again, the views and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the Western Courier, the staff of the Western Courier. All of our opinions are going to be contained inside this podcast and do not constitute as news. So I guess we'll kind of go through, first, the differences between the Jefferson-Jackson dinner and the GOP day. It was very, walking into it, it was a complete contrast.
Oh, completely different. We had no security at the GOP.
Mm-hmm. Because we walked into Jefferson-Jackson dinner, we had bomb-sniffing dogs we had to go through. All of our bags had to be searched.
Secret Service was there. That was cool.
Yeah, Secret Service was there. They had basically rifles, and then we had to go through metal detectors and everything to get into this event. The GOP event was just kind of come on in.
Yeah, they just got our name signed off a list and cool, here's a pass, go sit down.
That was, very interesting to see. Again, you mentioned the GOP event was definitely more family-oriented.
Definitely. There was a lot more children at the Republican one.
I was impressed, though. No crying kids that I heard, anyway.
I didn't hear that either.
So, very well-behaved kids. I am not okay with kids and yelling at things, more so because it ruins our recordings. It makes things really difficult to hear. But kids were
pretty well-behaved.
Sounds pretty awesome. Compared to the Jefferson-Jackson dinner, it was a $50 entry. I messed that up last time, too. $50 entry into the Jefferson-Jackson dinner for, the basic seats, compared to the GOP event, which was $10.
$10 for adults and then $5 for kids.
So even had a kid price.
Yeah.
And it was all just a flat rate, plus lunch included.
Smokey D's barbecue was pretty good. I was impressed, because usually I don't like pulled pork, so.
It was pretty good, though. I was pretty happy with it. And also, with Jefferson-Jackson dinner, you didn't get food unless you paid, the heavy price tickets, the $10,000 tickets.
There was a concession stand, though.
There were...
It was, fancy concessions. You could get, a salad or, really fancy nachos.
I saw, a person in the media, walk up and, I want to get food, come back with, this really nice Caesar salad. I'm where do you even get...
Yeah, the German guy next to me. He
exactly.
was here's this beautiful salad, and I'm maybe I'm going to eat at the concession stand. That's really nice. I was expecting hot dogs.
That's pretty much exactly what I was assuming, too, but whatever. It's, a little bit formal. Again, the difference there, fairgrounds versus the ballroom. It was obviously a very nicely decorated ballroom, very formal and extravagant ballroom. Attendance, 6,000 at the Jefferson-Jackson dinner compared to 2,000 at the GOP event. So very interesting in that side. Also, I think, demographics of the crowd.
Very different. Very, very different. At the Jefferson-Jackson dinner, it was a lot more mixed, race-wise, and not so much at the Growth and Opportunity Party for the Republicans.
Yeah, it was just a little different.
Just a tad.
So that was interesting. Plus the ages too. I think Jefferson-Jackson dinner, mainly because the supporters for Hillary and Bernie, they were much younger, I felt.
Yeah, more like college student age.
A lot of them probably just really excited. I mean, you probably imagine a lot of the Hillary people just came out from seeing Katy Perry.
Oh yes,
And probably
all the
just jumping into the
excitement.
dinner. So very cool to see. But I'm trying to think. The attire of the candidates was another thing that was really kind of
Yeah.
different. The GOP event, everyone besides Rand Paul, I'm looking at right now, he was pretty much the only one that was dressed, tux, shirt, tie. Everyone was kind of a lot more relaxed. Either just kind of like a nice shirt and jeans, or some people just had, like a dress shirt on.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
someone had a sweater. Who wasn't had a sweater?
I know Rubio had like his sweater,
Yeah,
like
he had a sweater.
Rubio Iowa Team Iowa. Carly had her business suit on.
Of course. Gotta look professional as a woman.
Gotta love it. Trying to think what else. The professionalism was another big thing too.
Yes.
So, what was the best thing from the GOP event?
The Democrat House of Horrors. That was.
It was on Halloween, for reference. We had our pumpkin, courtesy of the Iowa Republicans.
Yeah, they gave us. Well, they didn't give them away. They said that we could take pumpkins, so we took one, and it's now named the Republican, in honor of the Republicans.
That was her, not me, just for the record.
It was Nick, other Nick. He came up
Was
with
he
it.
actually the one that came up with it?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
So
that's fair.
credit Nick Evilhack.
Love it. But yeah, it was on Halloween, and inside they had scarecrows of Hillary Clinton. And to give you some more background on the GOP event too, they had like tables set up everywhere. So each candidate had a table. They all really took on the Halloween theme.
Definitely, there was some sort of treat. There was like trick or treating for kids at each
That was
stall.
so cool. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a really good idea.
I know like the Jeb Bush booth, and I had like a big, giant, huge thing of candy.
Yeah.
And like a line of kids, and like targeting the wrong audience right now. If only they could vote, they'd all be voting Jeb Bush at this point. Speaking of which, Jeb Bush, I guess we should touch on a mock election that happened on campus.
Yes.
Very crushing defeat of Jeb Bush against Bernie Sanders in pretty bad fashion.
Yeah, it's just.
Very unrealistic fashion, I think I would say as well.
I mean, I was surprised with some of the states that went Democrat, but I mean, Illinois ended up going Republican. Illinois voted Jeb.
And so did Iowa. Iowa went
Yeah.
Jeb too. I know the students, so if I'm understood it correctly, the students have to vote according to their states normally would.
Yeah,
But then Florida went for Bernie Sanders.
which is
It,
probably not as realistic because Florida loved Jeb Bush. At least that's my impression.
Former governor of Florida, Jeb Bush. Although, I guess we interviewed somebody in the article that came out on Wednesday,
Yeah.
the 4th, and one of the supporters said, I don't think it's that unrealistic because, he, put the state in, debt or something.
I think that was the representative for Bernie Sanders that said
Yeah.
that, so that might be why.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that makes sense, I guess. Might be a little biased there.
Just a tad.
Let's see. And then obviously the other big thing I think was kind of the striking difference too. You had again with the booth. There was a booth that was raffling off a rifle.
Yeah, and then there was the good old pro-life booth that was a little startling to me. I'm all for having your own opinions. You can be pro-life, but they had a sign up that said "free babies" and we're giving away tiny dead fetus dolls. And that was a little. They invited children to this event, and they just.
It was just a little odd, I would
Yeah.
say. Just a little odd.
It's a little much, I want to say. That's my opinion there. I think it was a little much to give away tiny dead fetus dolls.
Well, they had some pretty cool outfits for them too, little stockings.
Yeah,
or
you
something.
could sport University of Iowa with your tiny dead fetus doll. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
It was very interesting. It was just something. It was a real treat, I will say.
The crowd was a lot calmer, though.
That is, yes. It might partly because of the fact that maybe they're so divided that not one section really had that overpowering chant.
Especially since the two leaders weren't there.
Yeah, Trump and Carson again both weren't there. So, I will say there was some commonality between the two events. So, They did open up with a prayer first, which was kind of, very interesting and maybe representative of Iowa itself. Both opened up with a prayer. Media areas were obviously very similar.
Yeah, had tables and Wi-Fi and place to plug in your computer.
Although I felt we were getting a little bit more judged at the GOP event by people walking by.
Just a tad.
I got a few remarks that were kind of like, make sure you report this correctly. I'm like,
see, I just stayed at my little table, so.
Yeah, I was more kind of roving around. I was mainly a photographer at the front of the stage, so I got to deal with everyone at the event, including all the people that were just kind of immediately bum rushed the stage as soon as the candidate was done speaking. There's one kid there, I don't know how old he was, but he had like a campaign sign for every person and had them all autographed. So
I know there was a little kid dressed up as like Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles who was meeting all of them because it was all over the Twitter hashtag. This kid was just meeting everyone.
Like I said, any good photo op. Yeah. They need any good press they can get. any of these candidates that for the most part are under like 5% at this point. So, okay, so let's just kind of start going through in order all the different candidates.
There was 10 out of the 14 current candidates that were there.
We've already had 2 dropouts. That would be Rick Perry and some other person that I have no idea who that person was.
I mean, I don't know half the people anyway still.
So first up to bat was Rand Paul. So impressions on Rand Paul.
He was interesting to say the least. He talked a lot about the Constitution, a lot. He accused Trump almost immediately of planning to use eminent domain to take citizens' property, I guess, for his business plan for the country.
So yeah, I mean, much like his father, Ron Paul, a very heavy constitutionalist, came out basically not necessarily defended, but kind of discussed why all of these certain amendments were very important. He kind of said, we have to support the Bill of Rights in its entirety. If you want to support the Second Amendment, you've got to support the Fourth Amendment, which is the right to be left alone, the right to not have the government come in your house without a warrant. He discussed the Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment says the government does not have the right to take your property, and then this is again talking about Trump with eminent domain. Then he also kind of bashed the Republican Party near the end of it, kind of saying, if you want to broaden our party, if you want to become a party big enough to win Iowa again, to win Illinois, Michigan, Pennsylvania, all these states we haven't been winning, we need to bring new people in. Basically criticizing Republican for dividing the country and not being a good example for the people.
I approve.
He also kind of talked on term limits for Congress people. Again, he was, just against, career politicians is kind of something he said. He wants to eliminate executive orders entirely. Again, very heavy constitutionalist, wants to go away from a strong executiveship. Anything else, Rand Paul?
Not really. He wasn't.
He was the best dressed there.
Yes.
He had the full tux, shirt and tie, and everything involved. So Ted Cruz, he was the second speaker at the event. He out of order, mind you.
Yes.
We had a schedule. He was supposed to talk first, but he came second. So whatever that means.
I mean, whatever. I guess that's what they wanted to do. I don't know if he was late or something.
It's possible. Someone made.
There was a couple people that they went out of order with.
Mm-hmm. I know Santorum. Yeah, I don't think he was supposed to go last, and I know he said he made a joke about being with the police and whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like an unexpected. Does that mean he was pulled over?
He kind of insinuated he was.
That's kind of what I took that as.
Yeah, he kind of insinuated that he was pulled over for speeding, but I don't know if it was just a joke.
There are a lot of really bad jokes throughout a lot of the discussions.
But I mean, what do you expect from a group of old white men?
That's true. Dad jokes. But yeah, Ted Cruz, he came out talking pretty heavily about his tax plan. I don't know if you want to go over that.
Yes, it was if you make $36,000 or more, you just pay 10%. And nice and flat, nice and fair to try to eliminate the billionaire hedge fund managers getting all the tax breaks. So
he basically said, no income tax, no payroll tax, no nothing. Above $36,000, everyone pays a simple flat tax of 10%. It's simple and it's fair. And he did make a specific mention that it does include charitable deductions and home mortgage deductions, and anything else, any other deductions, special deductions, it gets rid of them. And he came out with an index card that's kind of like, this is little be your tax form instead of the pages and pages.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just like a piece of paper at first. But I was really curious. So like I had my telephoto lens and like I zoomed in on his hand as he's holding it, and it was in fact say like tax card on there. So I don't know if he's just using it as like an example, like this is what I got. Then also related to his tax plan was also for businesses. On the business side, it eliminates a corporate income tax, which is at 35%, the highest in the developed world. It replaces it with a simple business flat tax of 16% that everyone pays on net revenue. And also including exports, it's border adjustable. He says, which means that if you're in a business that exports, you don't have to pay the 16% tax on any exports. If you're sending it to another country, you don't have to pay a 60% tax, which means that American exports suddenly become much, much more competitive all over the world.
Yes, and he criticized the debate too.
This is probably why he came out firing on this tax issue so much.
Yeah.
He probably all had it prepared for the debate. Because I will say, the debate was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But the moderators, it was on CNBC, so it should have been, financial related, you would think. And they didn't mention taxes at all, which is why he was kind of angry.
Yeah, he even has a quote saying, "It would have been nice for the debate to go into the differences in taxes and why is it that the Democrats, their only approach to taxes is more now, and give it all." So he really wanted to voice his opinion on it.
Yeah, he came out firing pretty angry. He wasn't the only one. Christie also came out and criticized the CNBC debate as well.
Yes, definitely. I feel like he was pretty intense with it.
And speaking of which, Christie was the third one to speak at the event. I'm trying to find his page here. They're all out of order. I don't know why that happened. It's kind of annoying. But unlike any of the other candidates, he did a Q&A session.
I know, I really kind of like that. It was a really different approach. Like, he came out and said, like, I want to know what you want to know, and then and he answered them really, really fast. I was impressed.
It was like a lightning round. Like,
yeah.
he was ready to go. He was, like, pumped and ready.
Oh, yeah.
So basically for his 15 minutes, he hosted that. So we had probably upward, 8 or 9 different questions about people in the audience.
Pretty fair amount for the time given.
He discussed term limits based on the question. The Black Lives Matter movement came up at one point. He talked about his jobs plan.
Yeah. The effect that the baby boomers' retirement would have on our economy, which was basically
not good.
Things
for
are going to be
people
sad.
He talked about his jobs plan and his plan for student debt, which is actually very interesting, which I think we'll probably talk about more as well. And also, he was the only Republican, even despite there being a booth on the Common Core, he was the only one out of the 10 that discussed Common Core at all.
And it was just briefly. It was very, very briefly just criticizing Common Core. Mm-hmm. He's the only person.
And the booth that they had there was the Common Core zombies, the Halloween theme and the professional thing, kind of very interesting discussion with that. But people just dressed up as zombies, Common Core,
we're students and we're zombies. That's basically what it was.
But some of his things that came out, he was asked a question about how would he unite the nation again following the problems that have come within the last few years between law enforcement and other communities of the population. He basically said, I want to unite the country around the idea that law enforcement will be enforced in this country equally for everybody in every way. We need to stand up for the men and women in blue. So very Republican. It's a very Republican belief, protecting the police, protecting law enforcement, supporting law enforcement.
I mean, I think both of us are pretty...
Yeah, we both have, police in our family, so we're both on that side. Again, people who came up asked him a question about students and college debt. He kind of talked about his national service way of paying for student debt, which is kind of interesting. He came out and said that, quote, some of the students have 6 figures of debt just to get through college. Then they get out, they can't buy a home, they can't start a family, they can't do the things they want to do with their lives. One of the options I want to give them is for them to have national service option, not just military service, but serving their community, their state, their country to be able to work off that debt. He didn't really say what a lot of this is, but I'm assuming it's kind of almost like building, infrastructure.
I could see that. Or just civil servants in general. I could see that.
Which would be interesting to see that.
Definitely.
But you would also think, are they getting paid for that in addition to paying off their debt?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of questions. I wish I was able to... I tried following him after the event, but he left pretty quickly. He was at his booth for a little while. A lot of people surrounded him getting autographs and things. And they basically told us, the media, that you're free to wander, just don't interview the people outside of the things.
Oh, the girl next to me was trying to get those interviews.
She was an intern, so she has no excuse. She's got to answer to that people. Like, I need to get this done. So yeah, that was pretty much most of Christie's, like, his main talking points. It wasn't more so talking points, it was more so just kind of the bigger questions that got the most draw. And then Jindal, I think your favorite speech of the day. Bobby Jindal, Louisiana governor. I'm just going to let you just spearhead this one.
He bragged about defunding Planned Parenthood, which is an organization that basically supplies, like, yes, they do abortions, but they also supply, like, health services, sex education, contraception, like, OBGYN visits. Like, it's called Planned Parenthood. It's for people planning to be parents. And he's bragging about taking that away from people, so people who actually need that service can no longer get it. Like, it's for health services.
Yeah, he was not the only one to talk about this either, but he was probably the most, I guess you could say, proud.
He was very proud, it seemed. In my opinion, he was very proud.
He said, folks, if the Republican Party can't stand up and protect innocent lives, referring to, I guess, abortions, what good is the Republican Party? We've not been the only pro-life state for 6 years in a row. We've actually put our own Second Amendment into our Constitution.
Yeah, he was trying to talk about all the things that he'd done, and he also touched on the traditional view of marriage, because
I think he was the only one that did, by the way.
I think he was too. He was he said, I'll just read his quote. I signed an executive order on religious liberty, protecting Christian individuals and businesses from discrimination as they continue to believe in a traditional view of marriage. So basically taking a stab at gay marriage, which was recently legalized federally in our country.
I think it's just interesting, too, when they discussed, being discriminated against.
Yeah.
It's just that word can be used so differently for both sides for the argument.
Because, like, I think that discrimination, my personal definition of discrimination is somebody who actually is considered lower. And for so many years, people who are, like, identify differently for their sexuality have been considered lower. And so they've been discriminated against, not the Christians. The Christians have been, well, I guess not just the Christians. The people who don't believe in gay marriage have been discriminating against those who wish to get married, I guess.
Basically up until 2015. Well, still in 2015, but
people
at least now it's, they kind of have to based on the Supreme Court ruling, which is good to hear.
Definitely.
Moving on to the next speaker, Rubio. Man, if you want to win that younger vote, he did not say the right things.
Nope.
He was a supporter of vocational education, which is a very valid thing. We need that in this world. We actually just had an opinion piece in our paper basically talking about, not necessarily wasn't talking about that, but referenced the importance of vocational training and how we need that in our workforce, not just people getting college degrees. But he kind of openly criticized college students.
He took it a little too far.
Oy. His quote is, we told students that vocational training is for the kids that aren't smart enough to go to college. That's a lie. Vocational training is for people who actually want a job that pays a salary.
And then, I know this, a welder makes a lot more than a Greek philosopher.
So I guess we're just wasting our time here, clearly.
Definitely, getting my training here.
I guess, any person that's going to school or, it's the vocational school. I'm sure there's so many vocational, meteorology schools around that they could just, learn all the math, science, and physics behind that and just, start forecasting weather. So.
I can definitely get a job in journalism without a college degree. I think I can do that. I don't know why I'm here.
You can just learn that, like online, right?
Yeah.
How to report.
Yeah, you don't need experience or anything.
And then I think, that was pretty bad.
Oh, but his job, he didn't even insinuate. He just came out and said that basically the only thing college is good for is football by saying, listen, we're still going to have 4-year degree schools because otherwise, how would we have college football? So apparently that's all we're good for.
I couldn't believe he said that. That was a little much.
Things just went downhill really quickly.
This is basically at this point in the GOP event, It's my political views are. I'm trying to go into most of these events very, very like not necessarily unbiased, but very, very open.
I tried really hard to come in open-minded. The first half was pretty good for me.
Yeah, this is kind of the point when it started going downhill pretty fast.
Yeah, I just stopped listening at some points. I was like, we're just gonna let you talk, and I'm not gonna take any notes, and I'm just gonna pretend I'm somewhere else.
I mean, I sit pretty, I guess, left in regard to social issues, but pretty right on, fiscal issues. And I definitely respect a lot of their tax plans and things. A lot of those I thought were pretty, in my opinion, in a way, pretty good. But a lot of the social issues they brought up were a little interesting and a little much for me. And then to top it all off, we had our next speaker, which was Mike Huckabee, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, who had a very religious tone.
Apparently, separation of church and state is not a thing anymore, but, I mean, I didn't get that memo.
He basically said that the next president should be a spiritual leader for the United States of America. So, yeah, it says, and he talked about other things as well, but pretty much everything kind of kept coming back to being a spiritual leader for the country and coming back to religion in some way.
Here's one of his quotes. I still believe that there's something else that the next president has to be willing to be, and that is a spiritual leader for this country. I'm going to tell you that there is no explanation for America other than the existence of Almighty God and His giving us, by His grace, this great country.
The first thing I thought of when he said that was kind of like, well, I guess the Native Americans aren't voting for Mike Huckabee. Yeah. I guess they just didn't deserve the land or something, so America
in his eyes anyway, I guess.
America's now ours.
And then he made that comment about caucusing for him. He basically said that no matter how bad the weather is, if the roads are slick, it doesn't matter. God will protect you if you caucus for Mike Huckabee. So there's, just in case you're interested in that, I guess.
But if you're going to vote against him, he says, the warmth and safety of your home is a much better option. So at least he's looking out for the people not voting for him. So I'm
just gonna. But let's just move.
We'll move on to the next one. One of my favorite speakers, just because I think he's really entertaining the way he speaks, and he makes fun of himself for this too. Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. He kind of opened.
That was a pretty good impression. I'm impressed right now.
Thank you. And I have family in South Carolina, so I got that accent good. Not really though. My family is from way back in the day. Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Oh, so you're a Southern boy.
Oh yeah. Up until about 10 years after the Civil War, most of my family's in the South. On my mom's side, my dad's side was all the North. So we'll separate some of the battles there. I just feel like we've always
lived in Illinois, my family.
My dad's side was pretty much always in Illinois, but my mom's side was just kind of all over the place. They're very big in like on the agricultural side of things. Mm-hmm. So Lindsey Graham, he kind of started out with jokes about his appearance, about his small stature, and he also kind of made fun of his accent, which is why I feel like I can at this point.
I mean, if he does it, that means you can do it too.
Exactly. And then he kind of openly came out back to back shots at Hillary Clinton.
Yes. Yeah.
He opened up discussing the Veteran Affairs Office and the problems with that, which again, he's a very valid point.
It's fair. It's very fair. For sure.
And we've even talked to the at the Bernie Sanders rally. A veteran asked him what would he do to fix the Veteran Affairs, and he acknowledged that there were problems with it. Hillary Clinton kind of came out back in the day and said that the issues were being exaggerated by the Republican Party. Graham said, here's exactly his quote. He said, "Here's my answer. No, they're not." Not really the strongest quote, but it's kind of funny.
I mean, it was pretty strong for him.
I mean, it's real. Then he said, they were real. Hillary Clinton, if you don't understand that, you're not ready to become commander-in-chief.
So definitely taking a stance on his feelings for Hillary.
Yeah. He's also, to give you some background for that too, he was in the Air Force for 30 years. So he definitely has that military background, which I guess helps him come out and say things like, I have a plan to win this war, referencing against the Islamic State. When it comes to radical Islam, here's my policy. Whatever it takes, as long as it takes, until we win. That's my policy.
So he's very, very into the military for it.
He was very strong for basically intervening and starting conflict over there, putting boots on the ground. That's something that he said that, criticized Obama for not doing. He also said, he wanted to clarify
Mm-hmm.
that he's not, a warmonger. He says, I'm not looking for war, but I'm looking for a world that is safe, where children can go up and be safe.
He had my favorite quote of the day about Putin.
Oh my God, yes.
He said, I'm not intimidated by a guy who rides around on a horse without his shirt. We can handle that guy. Do you think Putin would be in Ukraine if Ronald Reagan was president? There we go, yeah. So definitely he wants to, he took a stance on changing the foreign policy that the Obama administration has implemented recently.
Not the only candidate to basically say, I want to, redo everything or like change everything Obama did, so.
I feel like that's kind of what all of them touched on.
Then moving on to Jeb Bush. Out of all the speakers that needed to make a firm, get a good opinion of the crowd, he was the one I think that needed to really come out and win the people's support.
And I just feel like he didn't.
His speech, I think, was chaos. Was kind of the best way to describe it.
It was disorganized. It wasn't cohesive. It skipped around from topic to topic, constantly.
Because each of the people we talked about so far, we've kind of been discussing. Each of them kind of had a main theme.
Yeah.
His did not.
Not really. Nope.
A lot of things that he talked about while being governor of Florida, that's kind of most of what he talked about, which included his changes to adoption programs, his defunding of Planned Parenthood. So he was the second person to come out and say defunding Planned Parenthood and how he's proud of that. A license plate program in the state. Mm-hmm. So basically it's a Choose Life license plate, and the money that's being collected through that is now helping to fund adoption programs. Which,
that's pretty good. I mean, if you're going to take a stance on something, at least do something good with it.
And that's definitely, I think, the best way to do it. And he said, according to him, he's raised $20 million. And in Florida, he says, we triple-digit increased the number of kids getting out of our foster care because we tore down the barriers for adoption so the children can get to loving homes. Which is, again, very good. That's something that a lot of people talk about is adoption.
Yeah.
Most people, that's honestly the first time I've ever heard any candidate even mention anything about adoption whatsoever.
Well, because everybody else is just, I want to defund Planned Parenthood, and he was like, I defunded it, and then I did this.
To basically, to help it.
Yeah. So that people aren't just completely left out to dry.
Mm-hmm. And they opened up, he also said, under his governorship, he provided funding for crisis pregnancy centers so that, women have the choice instead of having to do, abortions and that kind of thing, which, again, good to have. But again, nothing
that big, no main topic.
And also no good quotes.
Yes.
A lot of the people usually that have that one quote, they're kind of writing that down, because that's most people I have, at some point it's good quote, or something like that. At no point did he really have a roaring audience at any point.
Yeah.
Oh well. And then on the flip side, we had Carly.
Fiorina.
I can never.
Fiorina.
I can never pronounce her name.
I mean, we're trying. That's what counts.
She is another one of the candidates who doesn't really necessarily have the political experience or the political background, but she was HP CEO for several years.
Which is a pretty big deal, being a woman in business.
So, unlike the Hillary Clinton candidate, she kind of took some jabs that are not necessarily, but it was pretty evident that she was kind of going after Hillary for some of the things she's been saying.
Because Hillary does go a little bit too far sometimes, saying things about being a woman, which I agree, it is a big deal for a woman to be powerful, because, we kind of haven't been for a really long time, at least in this country. And sometimes Hillary takes it too far, but Carly, she has a quote that says, I'll tell you one thing I'll never do. I will never ask for your votes or for your support because I'm a woman, although I am proud to be one. I will ask for your votes and for your support, for your prayers, because I am the most qualified candidate to beat Hillary Clinton and to become president of the United States. So I really like that she said, because I'm qualified. Mm-hmm. Because that's what equality should be. It shouldn't be vote for me because I'm this gender. It should be vote for me because I can do this. That's what equality is.
I thought her speech was pretty good overall. She definitely, I think, won a lot of the people in the crowd over.
I really liked her.
So out of the people that spoke, I think she probably had one of the better speeches.
I really, really liked her. She talked about what was it, living wages? Yeah, she talked about government, big government. She said, we have come to a point where government is so big, so powerful, so inept, so corrupt, that the potential and possibilities for far too many Americans' lives is being crushed by its weight. We must take it back, and that means we have to cut government down to size and hold it accountable, because if we don't, we are going to continue to crush economic growth, job creation, and wages in this country. So definitely using her business experience to take a stance on things.
Very similar to Trump in that way. He always talks about Trump is very heavy on his experience with negotiating things with China. China. He says that probably 15 times at least in any given speech he gives. So it's interesting to see the business people coming out and running for the Republican race. And then finally we have Santorum. He was the last of the speakers, and
he talked way too long. Like, he went so far over time that they cut his microphone off, and he just kept going. He just yelled over it. Not that I could hear him. I don't know if you could.
I was right at the stage, so of course I heard him. He was kind of yelling right in my ear. So, so he kind of went just a little bit over. And, I mean, realistically, like Bush, he didn't really have a very coherent order. I mean, up until the very end, the second half is definitely targeting immigration. But up until that point, I mean, I have my notes on his speech. I have 3 things written down prior to the immigration.
Yeah, I didn't start taking notes until the immigration.
He says, when you talk about immigration policy, the first that pops into your head should not be the illegal immigrant. It should be the American worker and the American people who are most impacted by the immigration system. Talking about that. He also talked that, we brought 35 million. He said billion.
He did say billion. I checked the recording multiple times. He said billion, but since that's more than we have in the world.
Yeah, if we have 35 billion immigrants coming in, I think we'd have some problems. But 35 million people in this country, legally and illegally, over the past 20 years, wages have gone down the slowest rate ever. We see the lowest labor participation rates. Why? Because the wages are so low. The incentive to come into work is not there, particularly under Obama, when we have government programs that help people not work, referencing things like all of the like food stamps and those kind of programs.
So definitely taking a stance on immigration, but his is a little bit different than the other Republican candidates because he's more for immigration, while the other ones, like say for instance Donald Trump, who just wants to build a giant wall, he's a lot more for immigration. Legal immigration anyway.
He says every person in the field wants to allow people here illegally to be able to stay here in one form or another, either permanent legal residence or permanent work programs or citizenship. Every other candidate understand that. If you want to contrast immigration, you have one choice. So
insinuating himself. So
if you're for immigration, he might be your best Republican anyway.
Yeah.
That was all of the different speakers. Again, we didn't get to hear from Carson or Trump at this event, although we have heard from Trump in the past. I think Trump probably just didn't show up because he maybe felt like he didn't have control of the event.
Well, see, the Des Moines Register was there. Aren't they on the list to not get in?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was he just really wants it to be his event. He's kind of an attention hog at most of these events, so.
He very much likes attention.
So, right. Well, I think that's pretty much all we have regarding the GOP event, so.
Who do you think won you over?
If I had to choose a Republican, I don't know. I'm still not even sure who I support in this entire election right now. It's so back and forth. Like, deep down, I like O'Malley, but I think it's just because he's so, he's the underdog, I gotta support the underdog.
You root for him?
Again, 90% of the Republicans are also the underdogs in this situation. So at the Republican event, Fiorina, Carly Fiorina, that's how you pronounce her name. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. I think she probably came out as the best speaker there.
Same for me. I really liked her. I didn't know too much about her going into it, but I really liked her for the Republican side.
I also like Christie a lot, too. He's probably either my number one or number two. Those two are kind of interchangeable.
He surprised me because I went in after the scandal that happened with the bridge a couple years ago. I went in kind of expecting that he was going to be like a corrupt politician and I wasn't going to like him. I don't actually know if he's corrupt or not. But I was surprised. He was a lot better than what I thought he was going to be.
And he was one of the few people that really addressed this problem with the student, too. He recognized, the student debt problem. So that's something that, I mean, granted, someone asked the question about it, but you had a very good response and a very good plan in place, at least, to respond to that.
Yes, definitely something worth hearing out, I think, the rest of the plan, to fully understand it.
So anything else? Any other discussion points of the 10 candidates do you want to bring up?
I'm pretty good. I think I've hit everything.
Yeah, that was kind of long-winded, but that's what happens when you have 10 Republicans running. Well, actually, 12 Republicans still. 14?
14.
14 Republicans actually still running. I feel like some of them are going to start dropping soon. So plans up ahead, we have the Democrat debate coming up on November the 14th.
Yes.
And then the Republican debate, which is on a Fox station. So I'm assuming it'll probably open with something like, we're a conservative station. We know how to actually ask the question. I feel like they're going to take shots at CNBC during this entire thing. That is on November the 10th. So hopefully we'll have some discussion there. Hopefully we'll be able to report from the field too. We're still waiting to hear back on the media credentials related to that.
Fingers crossed.
That would be so awesome. So thank you for tuning in for the Second Western Courier Decision 2016 podcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Or listen to us next time. Whatever you want to say. Came up on the internet before.
You can